Hello everyone, my name is Jonathan Barbeau-Baril, analyst at CIREG and in charge of social aspect and SLCA. I will be your presenter for this session in order to share with you the work carried out by the Roundtable on Product Social Metrics and its members in collaboration with CIREG. Let's take a deeper look at PSIA's methodology. The PSIA methodology proposes predetermined reference scale and performance indicators for 24 social topics related to four stakeholders. An overview of the key component of this framework is presented on this slide and provides a clear framework. Each stakeholder group is associated with a number of social topics such as health and safety, child labor, local employment, and responsible communication. These social topics represent the key social issues for these stakeholders. Inventory data for each of these social topics is collected via performance indicators. The PSIA methodology uses a combination of direct and indirect performance indicator to guide the data collection process, clearly indicating the type of information required. This handbook includes performance indicators that reflect positive and negative impact of the assessed product and service system. To interpret the collected data, reference scale assesses social performance on a 5-point scale. The referencing steps is crucial for interpreting the results and supports informed decision making. The figure on this slide represents the relationship between these elements. When selecting social topics, we considered that companies interact with society in two ways. They are dependent on the way society functions, social dependencies, and they affect the way society functions, social impacts. The five capital approach to well being highlights the assets and capabilities needed to facilitate well being. Five types of capitals human, social, physical, economic, and natural represent all resources that matter for the present and future well being of individuals. For each stakeholder group, the detailed area of protection was linked, directly or indirectly, to one or more type of capitals. Each position on the scale is a performance reference point assigned a score ranging from -2 to +2. The figure shows the generic principles followed to develop reference scales for social topic. Each reference scale is unique to the social topic to which it is associated. It is possible to read each of the scale in the handbook's appendix. It is here specially linked to the performance reference scale that our work comes into play. To date, few approaches have been proposed to transpose the result of social life cycle assessment (LCA) in monetary units other than quality and daily based approaches proposed by Widema in 2006 and 2020, and which obviously proved to be an interesting alternative to direct monetization. To this day, in the handbook, no formal guiding principles were proposed in order to pass from qualitative results on the scale-based approach to quantitative results in monetary units. Few approaches have been proposed to transpose the results from social life cycle assessment in monetary unit and which prove to be an interesting alternative to direct monetization. Certainly, impact valuation, understood here as the action of putting a monetary value on social impacts, has gained momentum in the past years, particularly with the publication of frameworks and standards such as Natural Capital Protocol, Social and Human Capital Protocol, ISO, and both ISO standards. Impact valuation is considered by many actors as the best approach to measure and value the effects of business activities because of its potential to facilitate comparability and communication of results across different companies and sectors. The added value of this approach is that it is applicable by maximizing the use of generic data and by limiting the need to collect new data. Please note, however, we would like to make an important warning about how these works should be interpreted. We are fully aware that this approach we proposed is not of the same quality as a proper impact valuation study. The purpose or objective was to find out whether it is possible to use a semi-quantitative approach to obtain a first idea of impact without the need of extensive data collection. The work was done in three stages. First, by conducting a literature review, allowing us to gain a better understanding of the existing valuation methods pragmatically applicable to social capital, human capital, and the prioritized social topics. Then, conducting a literature review in order to gain a better understanding of the hotspots and social topics of materiality associated with the case studies. Finally, developing a rigorous, replicable, and consistent monetization methodology for the three social topics retained, whose foundation could be relevant for each of PSIA's stakeholder groups and social topic. The theory of change, which is a causal flow that illustrates how a proposed set of intervention and inputs will result in specific outputs contributing to different outcomes leading to certain impacts, is underlying our approach, allowing us to be transparent about the choices and assumptions that were made as the process progresses. The general objective of the project was to demonstrate that a shift from qualitative value to quantitative value could be envisaged. In other words, we have attempted to correlate the qualitative reference scale with the potential social impacts measured by the impact valuation method. Let's generally go over each of the steps and sub-steps of the first method proposed. First, we have to formalize the impact pathway and determine the performance indicator with the greatest potential for documenting a statistical correlation and monetization factor on the basis of existing data in international databases. This first step has two sub-steps which will be presented on the next slide and then implemented on for the social topics 4.1 of SIA's handbook, meeting basic needs, applicable to the stakeholder small-scale entrepreneurs. Second, we need to identify three key elements: a variable that will serve as a qualitative descriptive, ideally aligned with the performance indicators predefined in the handbook for the reference scale of the concerned social topic; a monetizable variable, which is significantly correlated with the performance indicators used to build the reference scale; and a placement of the levels of reference scale on the basis of the documented data for the selected indicators with a quintile approach. It is important to say that this last sub-step must imperatively, if possible, respect the logic of the level of compliance level 0 set by the reference scale and predefined in the handbook. The third step is to analyze the performance of your organization compared to the reference, regional or sectorial, of the reference scale. This third step has six substeps on which we will come back in order to detail them in the next slides during the case demonstration. Let's go back to the first step of our approach in order to detail how this first step is cut out and applied concretely to a social topic. First substep is to restore a diagram of the impact pathway for the social topic to be treated based on the methodology of the handbook. Second substep is to retain the performance indicator with the greatest potential for documenting a statistical correlation between descriptive variable and monetizable variable. As said, the substep simply consists in formalizing the impact pathway of the social topics to be treated in graphic form in order to put into perspective the logic developed by the handbook. At this point, we may well be aware of the theory of change that aims to be implemented. Performance indicators can be associated with inputs and activities. Midpoints can be associated with outputs, while area of protection endpoints is concerned with outcomes and impact. This exercise already makes it possible to glimpse the variable or proxies if needed that could be selected to align with the performance indicator and contribute to the social impact of the organization. The second substep is the prioritization that is carried out within the performance indicators of the social topics to be addressed, in this case, meeting basic needs. This selection may differ depending on the data available to you. It is, however, preferable to prioritize performance indicators which are components of the definition of level 0, level of compliance. Here, in doing so, we must keep in mind the availability of data. For the case, we mainly focused on performance indicators. Number 1, percentage of small-scale entrepreneurs who have access to improved water sources, because generic data was available in international databases. Second step of our approach is detailed here. The first substep of this second step is to identify the variable that will serve as a qualitative descriptive for the reference scale of the concerned social topic. Pick one among the performance indicators that were identified, or define the proxy if no performance indicators can be documented as stated in the handbook. The second substep is to define the level of the reference scale based on the compliance level of the handbook and sectorial country data quantile ranks. The third substep is to identify monetizable variable which is significantly correlated with the performance indicators used to build the reference scale. You should keep in mind that it is important to select the variable for which you can assess to a monetization factor or for which there is data for burden of disease approach, example DALI, to then be able to make the transition towards a monetary value. The fourth substep is to demonstrate a significative correlation exists between the variable from substep 1 and substep 2. This should be done using the collected data, but proven correlation from the literature is also acceptable, provided you are transparent about the use process. Fifth substep is optimal and depends on the data you used previously. You might need to convert the unit of the monetizable variable into monetizable unit if necessary, for example, DALIs. Example, if you have an amount of occupational non-fatal accidents for a specific country, you will need to find the amount of DALIs associated to this country's occupational non-fatal accidents. Now, let's get back to our palm oil case related to the social topic meeting basic need for small-scale entrepreneurs. The qualitative descriptive variable from the performance indicators that we retained was the percentage of access to improved water sources. For our case, We gathered country-specific data for the single performance indicators from the World Health Organization and UNICEF water supply statistics. The compliance level, level 0, was set based on the relevance reference scale established by the inbox. The other level have been selected based on the bottom and top quintile data. For substep 2.3, we choose to retain the amount of debt related to water-related disease by country as the monetizable variable. At substep 2.4, we were able to determine that the correlation between these variables was proven in the literature, but in addition to the generic data at our disposal, we had a significant correlation, although it is not a strong correlation. The fifth substep was to convert the unit of monetizable variable into a monetizable unit, if in this case DALYs. Using the Institute for Health Metrics and Evaluation, we could conclude and convert our initial monetizable in DALY units for all countries in our dataset. Here is the rate in DALY associated to water-related disease for the two countries of our semi-fictitious cases, Papua New Guinea and Indonesia. The third step of our approach is detailed here. First substep is to determine your organization's performance on the reference scale. Second substep is to link the ranks of the reference scale to the monetizable unit using the mean value from the quintile of your dataset. The third substep is to determine the difference between the region or sector and measure performance of your organization. The fourth substep is to report the variable on a per capita scale if necessary. Fifth substep is to multiply result of zero point 0.4 with the estimated number of stakeholders affected by the activities of your organization. And the sixth substep is to convert the total sum of averted or additional values or any other unit used for the monetization variable into a financial value, for example, US dollars. If we focus on the organization located in Papua New Guinea, in this case study, which concerns us, access to improved water of Papua New Guinea was 41.3%, placing them at level -2. Let's assume the organization's initiative increases the percentage of access to improved water sources to 95% for small-scale entrepreneurs of the region where the initiative takes place. This would place them at level 0 on the first reference scale that we presented. The mean of level 0 associated to the countries in our dataset was 781 DALYs. The actual DALYs for Papua New Guinea was 4,510. If we subtract these regions with level 0 compliance, we get an averted number of DALY of 3,729. This places the rate of DALYs per capita of Papua New Guinea in terms of averted DALY at step 3.3 at 0.03. Let's now assume, with the data we had on hand, that 19,614 small-scale entrepreneurs are affected by the initiative in place. If we multiply this number of affected stakeholders by the number of averted DALY per capita, we get an amount of 731.4 averted daily per year with the new initiative implemented by the company in Papua New Guinea. Let's now assume one daily is worth 5,658 and 64 cents US dollar in current dollar, obviously. Then we multiply the number of reverted daily by the value of each daily and get the amount of social value created in with this specific initiative. Now, applying the same methodology to the organization which was based in Indonesia. In the case study which concerns us, Indonesia has access to improved water of 89.3%, that placing them to level -1. Making the same assumption as we did previously with Papua New Guinea case, their initiatives would place them at level 0. Indonesia has a rate of dailies associated to water-related disease of 2,183 dailies. Subtracting level 0, meaning 781, you get a result of 1,402 dailies averted. Dividing it by 100,000 inhabitants to get the rate, you get a result of 0.01. Let's now assume that for Indonesia, 9,100 small-scale entrepreneurs are affected by the initiative. Multiplying it by the rate of daily, you get an amount of 968 and 78 averted dailies per year. Making the same assumption in the worth of a daily and multiplying it by the number of averted daily in Indonesia for this initiative, you get a created value of 5,481,077 US current dollar per year. Therefore, comparing the two cases, we can conclude that the same initiative has a greater social value in Papua New Guinea than in Indonesia. In order to put into perspective how the approach can assist a manager in decision making, we have paralleled the two social topics covered in this presentation. In Papua New Guinea, the activities carried out by the organization in order to reduce its social impact on the social topic 4.3, meeting basic needs, have a greater financial impact than the ones carried in order to address social topic 1.1, health and safety for workers. This indicates that maybe this organization should invest more into meeting basic needs for small scale entrepreneurs because it has a greater social value overall. Same thing here with the organization located in Indonesia. In Indonesia, the activities carried out by the organization in order to reduce its social impact on the social topic 4.3 have a greater financial impact than the ones carried out in order to address social topic 1.1. This proposed methodology presents in particular the following value. It allows companies to prioritize their resources allocation and actions in terms of initiative contributing to social impacts. It could possibly provide quantified items in financial value for communication purposes. It could also help demonstrate an organization's social impact towards its investor. This approach is certainly not perfect. Besides, no monetization approach are far from it, but I will not go into this editorial. Let's just say I would probably be on a personal level one of the first to support those who oppose to this idea. Here are the limits that we have encountered and that deserve to be raised. During our work, generic database place limits on what can be constructed as results. At the moment, since they do not contain data for all countries, subregions, and economic sectors, then there is a need to call upon primary data to which we did not access within the framework of this project. Also, potential need to review the performance indicator of certain social topic from the handbook in order to put forward quantifiable variable. The approach remains very macro and does not take into account the essential contextual element when dealing with social aspects. Also, certain social topics which cannot be linked properly to the burden of disease valuation approach could be difficult to monetize because at the present there's a limited number of monetization factor existing for social issues. Also, different impact pathway could be valid for any given issues. We do not recommend following the impact pathway we have currently chosen. In the absence of consensus on which impact pathway is relevant, we recommend well documenting the impact pathways you select. Despite the imperfect nature of the approach, we still believe in the contribution that we have been able to bring. We humbly explored the passage from qualitative reference scale to quantitative monetary values. We have demonstrated that it seems possible to pass from the handbook reference scale, qualitative value, to monetized values, which are quantitative. Over the course of the methodological development, we came up against obstacles that could allow us to improve the background of the handbook in order to align it with a perspective where the ultimate goal is impact valuation. What is next? Well, we need to develop the approach for multiple social topics, if not all the 24 topics of the handbook. Also, we will need to test the methodology upstream a large project in order to integrate primary data and contextual elements. Thank you for listening, and I invite you to follow the work of the Roundtable in order to stay informed on how we will communicate and make this methodology accessible to all. If you have constructive questions or comments, the manager of the Roundtable and I will be happy to take notes of them and answer them. Again, thank you for your attention.